All right. Let me introduce myself. My name is Chia Suan Chong, and I'm a teacher trainer, a teacher. I had my foundations at International House London, where I trained and I taught for nearly 10 years. Um, I did a lot of CELTA training back then and a lot of teacher training and business English teaching. And then I moved to Munich and taught there for a year before coming to York, where I am now. I'm in York, UK, and I am a freelance teacher trainer, a writer, and speaker. I do a lot of workshops and conferences and webinars like this one. And in my line of work, one of the things I enjoy most about it is meeting people like you guys, people from all around the world, all brought together because of their passion for learning, their passion for languages, and passion for communication. One of the things that I have been very, very passionate about lately is looking into soft skills, or also known as life skills or 21st century skills, and communication skills in learners. To me, language teaching is not just about teaching grammar and vocabulary. It is also helping our learners become better communicators. Seeing that English is now the world's lingua franca, the language that kind of glues us all together, you don't need to want to communicate with an English person to speak English. You just need to want to communicate. That desire to communicate with anyone from around the world makes English such a useful language. And because of that, to me, our jobs as teachers has got so much more exciting because we are no longer just teachers of grammar and vocabulary, we are also teachers of communication. We're teaching our students how to become communicators in this world where English is an international language. And today we're going to look a bit more deeply at that communication that takes place between people through discourse and pragmatics. So, what is discourse? Now, it's really hard, and it's not fair of me to ask you what discourse is. So, let's have a look at an example to help you understand what discourse is. Have a look at this quote, and I don't have any prizes to give, but if anyone can tell me where this quote is taken from, I would be very impressed. Have a look at the slide, look at the text. Is anybody making any sense of this chunk of text? Yeah, absolutely, Maria. It's very hard to understand, isn't it? What is this person talking? Yeah, exactly. What is he talking about? Someone said the discourse is incorrect. Perhaps, we couldn't say I don't know if you could say discourse is correct or incorrect, if there's such a thing as incorrect discourse. But certainly there is an issue with discourse here. And, someone just said, I think, Ariana, you just said that discourse is a shared code to communicate with others. And strangely, no one's understanding this text on the slide at the moment because there is no shared code. Um, all right, no one's guessed it so far. This is taken from Little Britain in season 1, episode 1. Those who know the comedy series Little Britain will know this character, Vicky Pollard. Vicky, for those who don't know the series, is a sort of a typical, is trying to be a typical English teenager who is perhaps more concerned about her teenage social life than she is about education. This dialogue takes place in the classroom where Vicky is giving an excuse for not handing in her essay, not handing in her assignment. So her teacher says, Vicky, have you even started on this essay? And Vicky says, no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, because I'm not even going on a pill because the dean reckons they stop me from getting pregnant. Nobody understands what Vicky's saying, but Vicky clearly understands what she's saying. We often understand ourselves and we think everyone understands us too. And the truth of the matter is this is real communication. Vicky thinks she's being very, very clear, but none of us understands Vicky. And the issue is, like someone said earlier, there is no shared code between Vicky and the teacher and Vicky and the rest of us. None of us are able to read Vicky's mind and understand what she's saying. In that sense, Vicky's discourse, Vicky's words are not thinking together. They're not cohesive, and they're definitely not coherent. It's not understandable. I think Vicky is a great example of why discourse is important, because if we don't teach our students discourse, then they have the risk of sounding like Vicky. So, what is discourse? Discourse is language in context. Look at the sentence here. Oh my goodness, what was he thinking? Now, very, very quickly, you can already tell me if this was written or spoken. Is it written or spoken? So just by looking at that, you know that is spoken English. Now, of course, in today's modern world with modern technology, that could be written in a text message, that could be written in a Facebook post, that could be something in modern media. Some of these short messaging, instant messaging discourse styles reflect spoken discourse styles. Absolutely, spoken or text message. So we know that that's spoken. And in fact, if I pushed you, you probably would be able to tell me what the context might be. You might say, maybe someone is saying it to another colleague about another person's behavior. Maybe he was wearing a really ugly pink outfit and the others are gossiping about him. Maybe this is the context of the discourse of gossip. Just by looking at this one sentence, you could guess the context. Have a look at this sentence. What do you think the context would be? Written or spoken? Okay, it could be both. Yeah, it could be spoken or written. Absolutely. Yeah, it could be both. Having said that, though, the vocabulary to furnish me with details sounds rather formal, which is exactly what Susan has just said. It sounds rather formal. Furnish me. In spoken language, we might simply say, I would like you to give me some details. This could be in an email. My guess is an email sentence because emails you see contractions like I'd like. So there's certain features of emails that have spoken discourse features in them, but yet there's certain features of emails that sound like they could be business-like, and perhaps this is a business email, I'm guessing. Yeah. How about this one? Where do you think this is? Where would one see this? Where would you see this expression? I'm so excited to announce that I've passed my MA with 3 distinctions. Oh, congratulations. Facebook. Fantastic. You've read my mind. I would say that this is probably, if it's written, it will be written in a very casual, sort of social media kind of discourse, rather than a formal essay or or an assignment for university or even an email. I think this might be, I'm so excited to announce, might be the discourse of something more that we see on social media, perhaps. Yeah. So in informal written, yes, social media has definitely changed the way we write, and we should not ignore it. We all write on social media, our students do. We shouldn't ignore it. We should definitely take the discourse of social media into consideration. So, just by looking at these sentences that I've put up on my slides, you can already tell me whether it's written or spoken. You can even tell me what media it's on, whether it's an email or Facebook or gossiping in an office by the water cooler. So, this is language in context. It is not just about understanding the individual words or the grammar that's used, it is understanding how the context and the language works together. So, what is discourse? Sorry, Amire, is it Amire who says great with a number 8? Hate to say to you, but according to the very, very young kids these days, writing great with a number 8 is kind of old-fashioned. I think it only used to happen before predictive text, but now that phones have predictive text, people no longer need to contract 8 with the number 8. So apparently that's old-fashioned now, I've been told. So what is discourse? Discourse is language above the sentence. We're not just looking at the sentence, we're not just looking at the grammar of a sentence, we're looking at how that sentence interacts with other sentences. We're looking at how that sentence interacts with the context at large, with the person who's speaking it, with the genre it's in, with the audience that's getting the message. That's language above the sentence. In fact, Scott Thornbury wrote the wonderful book Beyond the Sentence for Macmillan, and it's all about discourse and how to teach discourse. And the title of the book itself explains what discourse is. Discourse is something that is beyond the sentence. It is how language is seen with the co-text, the other sentences, the context. And someone earlier said about the shared code. In order to interpret text, we need real-world knowledge. We need knowledge of the world to help us interpret the text. And hopefully, we'll see more of that during the webinar today. And someone mentioned audience. Yes, Mohammed, co-text and context are not exactly the same. Co-text, not co-context. Oh, sorry, my spelling mistake. Apologies. What I meant was co-text and context. Oh, that's terrible. So what is the difference, Mohammed? Co-text is the other sentences that surround the sentence. So a sentence doesn't exist on its own. It has other sentences that go with it. So for example, the sentence before that said, I've passed my MA with 3 distinctions, the co-text is, congratulations. That's the co-text, the other text. The context is that's a Facebook message and other people are replying to this message and creating a thread of congratulations. That is the context. All right. So co-text and context are slightly different, but they're both very important when talking about discourse. And what is also important is the purpose. What is the purpose of the message? I'm excited to announce that I've passed my MA. Perhaps the purpose is to inform people. Perhaps the purpose is to try and show off. Perhaps the purpose is to try and fish for compliments, to brag. Yes, fish for compliments. There might be different reasons why we might post something like that on Facebook, but we should always consider what the purpose is. And when we read something, we also think, oh, why did he write that? What's his purpose for doing that? Get students to think about the purpose behind a text, the purpose that the writer has in mind, makes them better writers. Target audiences. Who is the text aimed at? Is the text aimed at an academic audience? Is the text aimed at friends? Who is the text aimed at? In the sentence, I'd like you to furnish me with more details. Is that aimed at someone who is professional in a business-like situation? In that case, the words furnish me with more details are appropriate. But if that was written to perhaps a group of children, if I said to my 3-year-old, oh, what did you do at school today? I would like you to furnish me with more details. My 3-year-old would probably stare at me and go, what? We need to consider our target audience when we are communicating. Who are we communicating to? The professional or the 3-year-old? Similarly, when we tell students to write an essay, we don't just say, write an essay. Who's their audience? Me, the teacher, because I'm the only one who's going to read the essay. That's not quite real world, is it? Because in the real world, when they write, they will be writing for a real target audience. So how about giving them a real target audience? Get them to write reviews on Amazon or TripAdvisor. Get them to write letters to the newspapers. Get them to write to their fellow classmates or other teachers. Give them a real audience. And that will help shape the way they write. Because without knowing who your audience is, how can you know how to write? Now, we often talk about discourse, and teachers immediately say, oh, discourse is about cohesion and coherence. Cohesion is how to put words so that they all stick together, and coherence is about being understandable so that people understand you. Well, that's true. Discourse is a lot about cohesion and coherence, but it's so much more, and we shouldn't stop at cohesion and coherence. Now, from discourse to pragmatics, these two are very often connected. So what is the difference? Jenny Thomas says that pragmatics is the negotiation of meaning between speaker and listener. I love the term negotiation of meaning because that suggests to me that two people are trying to understand each other. I went to what you call shop. The shop sell what you call tables, chairs. Yeah, tables, chairs, bookshelves. Yeah, bookshelves, and a bed, furniture, furniture. Yes. I went to furniture shop. What's happening here is the learner doesn't know the word furniture, but he or she is paraphrasing. She knows there's chairs, there's tables. It's the word for all these things. I just don't know. And in trying to express themselves with someone else, they are negotiating meaning. They're creating meaning together. And that's what interactions are about. It's not just me talking at you, like in this webinar, but it's about me interacting with you. I'm talking and you're talking, and together we are co-creating meaning. And that's what pragmatics is all about. Pragmatics is looking at the minute sentence, the utterance, the little things that we say, and how meaning is going to be coded. Yes, I know that it says that the webinar ends at 5:30, so for your time 11:30, but I am going to go on to 5:45 or 11:45 for you, if that's okay. I hope that's all right. Pragmatics is looking at meaning potential in an utterance. So how can these words be interpreted? Because the same thing can be said to different people, and different people will understand different things from it. So what's the meaning potential? And we talked a lot about context with discourse. With pragmatics, that's the same thing. Context contributes to meaning. So what is negotiation of meaning? I tried to explain it to you using the example of furniture. Have a look at this comic strip, and I think this is a great exemplification of what negotiation of meaning actually means. And this is what our learners do, right? They might not have the exact words, but they are constructing meaning with whatever language they have. And through interacting, they're learning. Through interacting, their language is getting better because they're learning to say what they actually really need to say. Now, when we talk about pragmatics, it's very easy to be focused on one thing, and this is the one thing I'm going to show you. Look at these sentences and tell me what they have in common. Go for it. It's certainly worth a try. Just do the best you can. What have you got to lose? What's the worst that could happen? Thank you, Maria. You're very fast. Yes, indeed. They are encouraging someone. Thanks, Rocio. They, sound like slogans. I suppose some of them are already slogans for soft drinks and things. But yes, these have something in common, and that is the function of encouraging. Very often when people talk about pragmatics, they talk about function. What is the function? So here's an example of the function of encouraging. Give it your best shot. Yes. How about this one? What's the function here? Very good, brilliant. Good to see people participating, praising, complimenting someone, praise, absolutely. So this is under the umbrella of praising somebody else, but also praising myself when I say, I don't mean to brag, but, or, oh, if I do say so myself, that's really bragging, isn't it? It's praising yourself. And then there's praising other people, like, oh, you have outdone yourself this time. That's praising. So the function of these sentences is to praise either yourself or somebody else. And very often when we talk about pragmatics, teachers talk about, oh, functions of requests, functions of suggestions. How about going to the cinema? Let's go to the cinema. We should go to the cinema. Shall we go to the cinema? A lot of course books and course materials and teachers seem to stop at functions when talking about pragmatics. The functions of request, the functions of suggestions, the functions of recommendations. But I am here to tell you that pragmatics and discourse is so much more than just functions. Don't stop at just functions, because language is so much richer than categorizing everything under a simple function. Let's talk about locutionary and illocutionary forces. Look at the conversation between Emma and Tom. Emma says, out of train is running. Tom says, the internet is down. Now, when we talk about discourse, we talk about cohesion and coherence, and here, there is no cohesion. If you look at the sentences, can you find out if the train is running? Now, look at the reply from Tom, the internet is down. Tom doesn't say anything about trains. Tom doesn't say anything about running. He talks about the internet. He talks about something that Emma didn't actually ask about. She's asking about trains and he's talking about the internet. There is no cohesion between the question and the answer. But yet, you all are so clever because yet you know that he's saying that because he can't search for the schedule on the net. That's what Rosinta is saying. That's exactly right. Thank you, Yavina. This is the difference between cohesion and coherence. There is no cohesion in this sentence because the internet has nothing to do with trains on a sentence level. There doesn't seem, on a grammatical, vocabulary level, internet, trains, no connection whatsoever. What is the relevance? But it's coherent, like Mohammed said. It is understandable. And what we understand is Tom needs to find out the train schedules on the internet. He needs to get on the internet and see if the train is running. And the internet is not working. It is down. So he cannot find out the train schedules. And he expects Emma to know all this when he says the internet is down. So the internet is down. He expects Emma to derive from that he needs the internet to answer her question. And that's how real life conversations often go. I say one thing and I expect you to understand it because I'm making the relevance, I'm making the connection. You might or might not. Here, look at this other example, and this is the original one from Professor Henry Widdowson, back when he talked about coherence without cohesion. Dawn says the phone is ringing. Jay says I'm in the bath. Just like the example before, Jay's answer doesn't seem to be connected to the phone or any kind of ringing. But yet you all know that Jay can't answer it, that he expects her to answer it. Yes, Tatiana. He probably does expect her to answer it because he's in the bath. And we know from our real world knowledge as experienced adults that you can't answer the phone if you're in the bath. You can't expect Jay to jump out of the bath naked and run for the phone when Dawn is there to answer the phone. He will drip all over the floor. Exactly. Thank you very much, Mika. And this is an example of how we're using our real world knowledge to apply relevance to our conversations. Now, some of you might say, hey, but our students are adults or even if they're young learners, they have some kind of concept of the real world. We are language teachers. I don't have to teach them logic. I shouldn't be here to teach them about how the real world works. They should know this. I shouldn't be teaching pragmatics and discourse. They should know this and apply it from their own languages and directly transfer it into English. That's partially true. But could you imagine some situations where a transfer of context and transfer of knowledge, of real world knowledge, might not work from one language into another? Let's have a look at that in a moment. Now, when we talk about cohesion and coherence, when we talk about discourse, people immediately say, aha, discourse markers. I teach discourse markers. These are some examples of the discourse markers I teach. Contrast, although, despite, in spite of, but, on the other hand, etc., etc. We categorize them very, very simply into broad categories like contrast, addition, etc. And perhaps that serves its purpose when writing an essay, for example. But consider this. Look at the conjunction but. Now we tell our students but is used to show contrast. But here, but has a much more sinister, deeper meaning than just contrast. What is Jen really saying using but? Now, she could easily say he was on social welfare and was not lazy. But she didn't say and. She said but. Thank you very much, Linda. There is a negative connotation of social welfare. She is implying, thank you, Mika, that most people think that unemployment is a sign of laziness. That so people on social welfare are usually lazy. People expect that everyone on social welfare is lazy. That is the implication. Absolutely. That is Jen's implication by using the simple word but. She is implying a lot about the connection between social welfare and laziness, and you all got it. So is it a bit too simple to then just tell our learners but just means contrast? Because here but means a lot more than contrast. Is it therefore perhaps, unfair to put but and other words of contrast together? Context matters, exactly, Maria. Context is so important, and we don't delve into context. We don't talk about context enough with our learners. Look at this one here. She wore flat shoes to the job interview. On top of that, she wore trousers. What is the implication here of on top of that? Linda, you are absolutely right. There is a judgment here, and using the words on top of that, there is a hint, a connotation of judgment. Yeah, to make matters worse, she wore trousers. How terrible is that? A woman wearing trousers? Oh. Yes, absolutely. Yes, there is a connotation she wasn't dressed appropriately. And you see, this is an amazing discussion I'm having with all of you right now. We could have this very same discussion with our students instead of simply saying and dismissing on top of that. Ah, yes, we use on top of that for addition, to add on. We're not using on top of that just to add on information here. We're using it to pass judgment of a kind. Delve into these contexts, have discussions with your students. Don't overgeneralize. We are totally underpaid. The offices are overcrowded. The directors are completely out of touch with the staff. Having said that, I do love working here. Having said that, it's a discourse marker. And again, no, Beth is not bipolar. I think that Beth is basically saying, yes, there are many disadvantages, there are many negative things, but yes, Sylvania, in spite of all those things, I still love working here. That's what Beth is really saying. Just to show you how important or how important context and words can change meanings. Substitute having said that with but then again. How does that change the meaning? Listen. We're totally underpaid, the offices are overcrowded, and the directors are completely out of touch with the staff. But then again, I do love working here. But then again, having said that, are often put together when looking at the functions of language, of discourse markers. But they're actually quite different. Because when she uses, but then again, there's this feeling of her rethinking what she said and go, oh, I've said that, but maybe I'm wrong. Having said that, doesn't have the same feeling of rethinking what she said. Quite a different meaning, exactly. So don't overgeneralize discourse markers. Yeah, there is a danger in such categories. It's a danger in over categorizing things. Earlier, you saw the expression locutionary and illocutionary forces. There is meaning in everything. The locutionary force, are you busy, is I'm asking you if you are busy. That's the locutionary force. I'm asking you if you are doing anything at the moment. But there's an illocutionary force behind that. What do I actually mean when I say, excuse me, are you busy? Thank you very much, Mika. What I really want to know is if you can do something for me. Or can you help me? I want you to do something for me. I need you. I need you. Are you busy doesn't mean I'm genuinely interested in your schedule for the day just because it's interesting. So here you have locutionary force. Are you busy? I want to know your schedule of the day. And illocutionary force, what I really mean is, can you do something for me? Can I talk to you? Can you give me a few minutes? So that is the difference between the surface meaning, the locutionary force, and the illocutionary force, the implied meaning. And we do that all the time in conversations. It's stuffy in here, isn't it? Locutionary force, I'm telling you, it's really stuffy. It's really hot and humid and warm. Illocutionary force is, what's the real message behind this? Can you open the window? Thank you very much. That's the illocutionary force. Or can you please turn the air conditioning on? Or can you open the door? Or can you do something for me to make it less stuffy? Do you see the difference between locutionary and illocutionary forces now? And we do this a lot in English. And this is the fun bit about pragmatics and discourse. We need to explore this with our students more because what we say is not always what we mean. That curry smells really good. Locutionary force. The curry emits a very nice fragrance. It smells nice. That's what it means, isn't it? It smells good. Illocutionary force. Can I have some? You know, it's quite interesting. Some of you say, I'm hungry. That itself is not the illocutionary force because I'm hungry just means I'm hungry. It's nothing to do with the curry. But what you really mean is I'm hungry and I want some curry. I'm hungry and I want to eat it. And there is meaning in everything we say. Will you be passing the supermarket on the way home? Locutionary force. I just want to know about the landmarks that you pass on the way home. That's unlikely, isn't it? Because what we really mean is I need a lift. I need you to buy something for me from the supermarket. I need something from there. Indeed, I want you to pass the supermarket. Yeah, even if you're taking a different way, can you just try and pass the supermarket for me today so that you can bring some milk home? Exactly. And that is the meaning behind that. And we do this a lot with our families and our friends. My husband often laughs at me because I say, why are there socks on the floor? And he would say, do you really want to know the reason why the socks are on the floor, or are you trying to say something else? Yeah, I'm not asking you why the socks are on the floor. I'm asking you to put the socks in the laundry basket. There is meaning in everything. When people say, I hear what you say, what they really mean is, I'm just about to disagree with you. When we say we need to rewrite this report, what we really mean is you need to rewrite this report. Exactly. We do that a lot in England. We say we, especially managers giving feedback to employees and trainees. We use the word we when we mean you. And this can be a bit confusing for some people who might not be used to this, because this is not something that happens across all languages. This is not something that can be transferred from one language into English or English into another language. The English do this, other cultures might not. So we need to be very aware of the differing illocutionary forces when communicating across cultures. Speaking of intercultural communication, have a look at this. Sarah says, we could inject another 50K for 15% of your business. Aki says, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. What does Aki really mean? Does she mean, yeah, 50K, 15%? Great. Now, of course, some of you might say, oh, it depends on the intonation. It depends on the non-verbal cues, like is she smiling? Is she not smiling? Is she making eye contact? Is she nodding? Is she shaking her head? That's interesting. Can mean so many things. It can mean interesting idea. Let me think about it. It could mean that's interesting. I want to say no, but I don't know how to say no, so I'm just going to say it's interesting. Or it could mean I love it. I love your idea. Let's do it. Yes, absolutely. The Japanese don't normally give negative answers directly, and there's an issue there as well. So she's trying not to say no. She's trying to be polite in her saying no by saying, that's interesting. Without truly understanding the culture and what the illocutionary force is, it's easy to cause a misunderstanding. It's easy for a misunderstanding to happen when we don't understand the context and the cultural forces. Even a simple hello, how are you would cause a problem. I used to say to my students, hello, how are you? And they would say, I'm great, fantastic. But they found it really strange because I used to teach in London. And when they asked people in London, how are you? Hello, how are you? They would say, oh, not bad. And some of my students came to me one day and they cornered me and they said, why do people in London keep saying not bad? Why are they so negative and pessimistic? Hello, how are you? Oh, not bad. In Brazil, if you say hello, how are you? We are like, yeah, I'm fantastic, I'm great. Why do people in London say, oh, not bad? And I had to explain to my students that in London we are trying to be humble and we're trying to be less presumptuous. We don't want to say, yeah, I'm great, only to find out that our conversation partner is a bit depressed and not doing well. So we say not bad, just in case our conversation partner is not well. And Londoners don't want to make someone else feel bad. So they put themselves down so that other people don't feel so bad about themselves. But that's a Londoner and perhaps a UK thing. And that is so cultural. How you reply to how are you can be so different depending on the culture you're from. Lovely weather today. A very typical conversation starter for British people. We talk about the weather all the time. It's sunny, it's raining, it's snowing, it's hail, it's windy. So, is that a universal thing? Does everyone talk about the weather to break the ice? I'm not so sure. I was born in Singapore, and in Singapore, it is quite common to start a conversation by saying, have you had lunch? Have you had dinner? Have you had your breakfast? Some of my friends find that they prefer not talking about the weather. They prefer talking about their hobbies or the latest football result. Some of my students tell me that a typical conversation starter in their culture is, how old are you? Now, you see, in England, if you started a conversation with, how old are you, people might be a bit shocked. How do you reply to, that is a gorgeous dress you're wearing? Do you say, I know, I love this dress too? Do I say, thank you? Do I say, oh, this old thing, I've had it for 15 years. Oh, this thing, oh, I got it on discount in a really cheap shop. It's nothing special. Again, it's a very cultural thing. How you answer that question or how you reply to that statement can be very, very cultural. How's the wife and children? For some cultures, this is a totally acceptable way of starting a conversation. For other cultures, this might be seen as an intrusion into my privacy. If I'm meeting you in a business situation and you're asking me about my wife and children, it does seem a little strange. But for some cultures, this is totally normal. So we cannot separate culture and discourse because they go together, hand in hand. We cannot assume that our learners are able to understand their discourse when talking to English people just because they speak the English language. Just because you speak the English language does not mean you understand the discourse of English people. Have you had lunch? Is a greeting from my hometown, Singapore. How was your weekend? And a typical one, often heard in language classrooms. Here's some other examples that I find very, very cultural. What does Rachel really mean? Rachel just means yes, sure. It's another way of saying obviously yes, but perhaps that might be lost to someone who is not from her culture. What does Josh mean? What do you think of the new offices? I can't find anything nice to say, so I'm just gonna compliment the carpets. So Josh is not really talking about the carpets. He's just trying to say something because he can't think of anything nice to say. What does Steve mean? Steve is trying to show off a bit, isn't he? He's saying, that was easy for me. Piece of cake, like we say. Yes, it was really easy. It's not rocket science. It's really easy. Now, a lot of these are kind of like idiomatic expressions. They're idioms in a way because they're very localized. Some people understand them and some people don't. And Barbara Seidel-Hofer, when talking about English as a lingua franca, warns against using too much idioms, too many idioms in English for international communication because it gets lost and a lot of it carries so much culture with the discourse. It is a bit dangerous using expressions like that in an international situation. Here's a little example of mine. This is actually something that happened to me. Have a read. What do you think happened here? Coming from a discourse culture that is sort of more interactive, I expected, well, I was Ellison in the story, okay? And I expected Junso to say something. So when I said, "You won't believe what happened to me today," I was waiting for Junso to say, "Really? What happened to you today? What happened?" Junso, however, didn't say anything. So, yes, I or Ellison interpreted silence as a lack of interest. What was interesting was later I asked the Junsuk character, "Why didn't you say anything? Were you not interested?" Junsuk said, "I was very interested. I was showing respect for you by not saying anything because I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt you. I was respecting you, and so I kept quiet." No, Junsuk was from Korea in the real story. And this actually did happen to me. And this is exactly why we should be really looking at discourse with our students, because we expect conversations to happen in a certain way. "How are you?" "I'm fine, thank you." "Good morning." "Good morning to you too." "Oh, that's a beautiful dress." "Oh, why? Thank you." We expect conversations to happen in a very fixed, scripted way, but in international communication, that script might change. And so we really need to think about how that script is changing as we communicate internationally. One last example, and I promise I will let you go. This is something too good not to tell you about. This happened in a course I was teaching. I was teaching a very big group of students from the Middle East, and we were about to go on a road trip. And I told them that in this place they have certain rules. So I gave them handouts of these rules that you see on the slide next to you. Okay, these are the rules that I gave them. My students got very, very upset when they received the handouts with these rules. Why did they get upset? Why did my students get upset when I gave them the rules of the building we are about to go to? Yes, they did. They got very offended. They got really offended. Um, they assumed that I gave them these rules because I expected them to do these things. They thought that a written form of rules made things more formal and therefore more official, and they were offended by the formality of it. They felt like it would be better if I had spoken these rules to them and not given them a handout with written rules. They felt that the written rules were an insult to their personality, to their being. They felt that I didn't trust them. And yes, exactly. And they felt that the rules came across as aggressive. These are, again, the issues that we really need to explore, the preferred contexts, the preferred co-text, which can really, really change depending on the culture we're talking to. So how can we deal with discourse in the classroom? We can do all the things that we've been doing, all right? We can be discussing it, talking about context more, okay? Using tasks that are realistic and authentic. Think about communication. Why are we communicating? Why are we talking or writing this text? Think about the target listener and the cultural differences. Do not forget the cultural differences. Use role plays, use drama, absolutely. And think about hidden agendas. Play that game with your student where someone says something and you try to guess what they really mean. What is the illocutionary force? Guess the illocutionary force. And these are the things we can do to help them think more about pragmatics and discourse in the classroom. Now, thank you for being so patient with me and for listening.